Are there any particular things we can do politically to restore honor? I mean, it's one thing to say, it's another to actually legislate it. Are there any things that you think we ought to be doing, any specific plans to?
Well, my personal opinion is I think we need optional entitlement programs. I think people should have the right to opt in or opt out into a system of being able to take care of the poorest, the sickest among us. I think we should be able to have one that we know will work.
Okay.
And I think with options, I think that really forces the people that put together the programs to make sure that they're valid and that they will indeed work.
Okay.
My generation is not looking very good as far as getting what we're putting in for now, so I think it'd be better if we had the choice.
So if you had the choice, you would opt out of Social Security?
I think Social Security is broken. I think it's a failed plan. I think I think it's been known for a long time. And absolutely, I think we would opt out until it was rectified. And if it was rectified and a good plan could be put in order, and that was the best plan, I think a lot of people would be a lot better off putting their money into it that way.
What freedom do you think you've lost over the years? And when do you think you lost it?
Well, I hate to say, but I think I just lost it in this last year. A year and a half, different things, different regulations with everything, like with healthcare and all the different things that are coming through.
Tell about your Humana that you're
Oh yeah, I have a wonderful plan through Humana through the a supplement, and they'll send me to like the rec center, and they pay for that, and I can go over there and exercise and and use the pool and everything to keep myself healthy. And they told me that after this January 1st, when this plan sets in, they're going to do away with that. They're not going to be able to offer that.
Actually, insurance companies.
So Humana is going to take that away from you, and they're saying that it's because of the legislation that they can't afford it because of.
Won't get reimbursed through the Medicare for these extra things because it goes through Medicare actually.
Okay, so
this plan.
You're saying that because of the way the government's funding Medicare, that the private insurers are going to deny you care.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, ask you, are there any specific things where you think where we lost the honor? I mean, are there specific policies or politicians that you object to? I mean, there's a lot of general sentiment.
Right. I think that when you say something, you should honor it. When somebody tells us that something's going to be transparent, it needs to be transparent. When somebody says that bills are going to go up and they're going to be viewable for 48 hours before they're voted on, and that's what they run on their platform, I think we have a right to expect that that's what needs to be done, and that hasn't been done.
They are running this country in such an irresponsible way, and I believe that greed and corruption is the root of the evil.
Now, when you say they, do you have any particular politicians or groups in mind?
No, I think
you think it's on both sides, Republican and Democrat?
The disease is on both sides. It is not a partisan thing. It's not a partisan issue. It's people who are making a lifetime of being in the government, not to serve the country, but to serve themselves and their own lust for power and greed and wealth.
How do you think we change that?
Prayer, and that's why I'm here. God's the only thing that can change that.
So now the light is better. I'm going to ask you to say all that all over again. No, I'm kidding. Are there any particular candidates or proposals that you've heard that, I mean, I think a lot of people, nothing wrong with prayer, obviously, but are there any particular proposals, lobbying reform, campaign finance reform, balanced budget amendment, any things like that you're in favor of that you think might make a difference?
I think all of it. I think all of what you said, and I think tort reform, I think term limits, I think all of the above. And I know that there's drawbacks to the term limits. Some people think that term limits would not be good. I know there's drawbacks, but this system is not working. I
see a lot of themes and kind of slogans, but at the end of the day, it comes down to specific legislate. Well, but how do you legislate? Because we have to run the government, and so what laws, what legislation should we pass that would make the system more responsive to the people's needs?
Not more legislation, not more government, less.
Okay, even if you were going to have less government, you would still have to legislate that somehow.
Yes, yes.
So, and that's what I'm asking you.
We need to, like Social Security is insolvent. We need, or will be. So
Right.
we need to, take care of that. Debt, stop spending. We need to give more power to the states. That's the way it was meant to be. Federal government was just for, it should mostly be for our security and things like that, but not for education. It doesn't need to come from the federal government. Let states, then you can decide what state you want to live in. We don't need federal mandates on education. It doesn't need to be one. I mean, they've taken over everything, the federal government. Yeah, EPA, we do need some environmental regulation. We don't need carbon dioxide regulated. So,
Okay.
I mean, they are every department is overreaching.
And we have got to restore honor to America, because a man's word used to be his bond. His handshake used to mean something. It doesn't anymore.
Okay, that's great. I like that. Is there anything specific, any legislative proposals?
Absolutely. We have got to get this budget deficit under control. If we don't, our economy is in the tubes.
How do we do that? A balanced budget amendment? Do we extend the tax cuts? Do we not extend the tax cuts?
Tax cuts have got to be extended, otherwise we won't have the capital to try to put our economy back where it belongs. But we've got to, instead of expanding social programs in government, we have got to cut social programs in government. We've got to go back to taking care of each other as opposed to expect Uncle Sam to do it all.
What specific programs would you cut? If there are parts of government, what departments would you cut, or would you have specific programs you'd like to see cut?
I think it's going to have to be an across-the-board measure. I do believe my mother and I get into arguments all the time because she's 76 and she is part of the gimme generation, which is the Social Security current generation. I'm a baby boomer. I won't have Social Security when I get there if we continue on the path that we're going.
Okay. Do you think we ought to raise the Social Security? They're talking about raising the
retirement age to
right.
70? Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm 56 now, so that's going to put me at 5 more years off. Actually 4 more. I think I'm 66 when Social Security notified me my retirement age is 66. I will be working until I'm 70 anyway.
Okay. Extending the tax cuts, should they be paid for in the budget? Should there be budget offsets so the tax, if we extend the Bush tax cuts, that it does not increase the deficit, or do you think that we ought to just...
We've got to do it. Whatever we've got to do, we cannot increase this deficit anymore. We're already at over $14 trillion total dollars. Things that my grandchildren are already indebted for, about $33,000 a piece, and they can't even vote yet.
Well, when Senator McConnell said that we didn't really need to find the money, that it was existing law, is he right, or is he missing the point?
That a lot of the people in Congress currently totally miss the point. We've got, everybody has got to cut. We had, they interviewed one of the congressmen the other day that was talking about a proposed amendment to saying that each time the budget isn't balanced, that the people in Congress would have to take a 10% tax cut, just like everybody else in the private sector.
When we're talking about integrity and honor, and you say this is not about politics, but at the end of the day, I think there's no getting around the fact that most people here want to see those values translated into their leadership.
Right.
So, what does that look like?
Politicians, even if it's something I totally disagree with, to speak from the heart and not to say one thing to one group of people one day and then the very next day be asked by a reporter and say something different when it's a different group of people. Okay. I want to hear the heart of our politicians. I don't want to see people just saying whatever it takes to get a vote and to get in. If they don't get elected, okay. I want to see people say, this is what I believe, vote for me if you believe in that, and then stick to that when they get to Washington.